Hey Westminster Shore residents, happy Saturday, and thanks for tuning in to our first episode of Waterside Chats. Our first guest is Zoe from the Health Resource Center. Hey Zoe.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have a few fun questions for you. Are you ready?
I am.
First question, what is your go-to productivity trick?
So it's a little weird one, and I found it on a YouTube video that I was watching, and it's actually to put shoes on when you want to concentrate, because it makes your brain think that you are on the go and that you are doing something, and it definitely helps me a lot.
Interesting. Everybody should try that. Number 2, what is your biggest work pet peeve?
A messy desk. I cannot stand when my desk is messy. When I've got a big project going on and papers everywhere, I get that, but the minute that's over, I gotta put everything in a folder and tuck it away.
Wonderful. Number 3, if you could snap your fingers and become an expert in something, what would it be?
I would want to be an expert in languages and just know every single language that there is. I love language and being able to talk in different countries with different people. I just think that would be awesome.
Wonderful. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
To fly, for sure. I love the feeling. I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I think that would definitely be a fun feeling.
What's one totally irrational fear that you have?
So it's actually Westminster related. It kind of came as when I was working the front desk, and I would see residents put their walkers when the elevator doors would start to close, and that would kind of scare me a little bit. Their walker would stop the elevator door, and all I could imagine was a limb in the elevator door getting stuck. That's my irrational fear.
That is a crazy irrational fear. And the last question, the best question, what is your go-to karaoke song?
My go-to karaoke song is Gunpowder and Lead by Miranda Lambert.
Solid song. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you for having me, Ashley.
And thanks again to Zoe for taking some time out of her day to answer some fun questions for everybody to hear. Our next guest is June Bilbrough. Welcome, June.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for having me today.
All right, are you ready to answer some heavy-hitting questions?
I am.
All right, first question. What do you do at the Shores, and in what circumstances would I come to you for something?
Well, hello there. I am the marketing assistant. I support the marketing team, the sales counselors, Ash, Brian, Becky, and Angela. My role is mainly doing the paperwork and the closings when new people move in. You would come to me if you were wanting to upgrade apartments, to relocate to one of the other buildings, and I would help you walk through that and take care of your needs. On the other hand, I'm always available for questions if you need assistance with anything.
Sounds like quite the busy job, June.
It certainly is. It keeps me hopping.
And quite an important job as well. Next question. What behavior or personality trait do you most attribute your success to, and why?
I believe it's my attention to detail. A lot of my work entails very detailed reporting, keeping track of all the inventory at Westminster Shores, and empathy when dealing with my prospects and residents.
Wonderful. Next question. What was your first job?
My first job was in Liverpool, England. I had trained as a professional secretary. I had always wanted to work in healthcare. And my first job was at the Liverpool Chest Hospital. It was a smallish hospital located in downtown Liverpool. And I was receptionist / clerical switchboard operator. And that was many years ago. The switchboard was a square box with little eyes that blinked at you when you had a phone call. So many people can't remember those or would have a fit if they saw them. compared to today's technology. It was quite an experience looking back on it.
Another busy job. All right, what led you to this career?
Well, as I said, I started off in a hospital. I had always wanted to work in healthcare. However, I did not want to be a nurse, as my mother had been. So I started my career in the hospital. I did get out of hospitals and healthcare for many years, and then returned to it when I came down to Florida and worked in skilled nursing and worked at Westminster.
So it sounds like you have had jobs that you really have to interact with people, and it shows that you love them.
Yes, most of my jobs have been that, because when I was out of healthcare, I was in a sales office, so very busy with salesmen and the public.
All right, enough with the business chit chat. Let's get a little bit more personal with June. All right, June, if you could write a book about your life, what would the title be and why?
The title to my book will be My 3 Lives. As the reason being, I have lived in 3 different countries. Based on 20 to 30 years in each country.
That would be quite interesting to see.
It certainly would.
All right, another personal question. What advice would you give to your teenage self?
Do not go steady with the same boyfriend from an early age. Play the field a little and make sure. I made the mistake myself of dating someone at the age of 14, marrying him at the age of 20, and unfortunately did get divorced 10 years later. So my advice would be, looking back into my grandchildren, is don't go steady too young.
100%. Agreed. All right. What's one thing most people don't know about you?
I don't know if I should say this, but I did get kicked out of the Bahamas at one point. It was not because of bad behavior. I went through a stage in my life that I did visit the Bahamas quite regularly. And at one stay, I had extended the time allotted. So when I was told to go to immigration, I did at around 10 o'clock in the morning, and they told me I had to be on the next flight back to Canada, wherever it went in Canada. Luckily, I did find a flight to Miami that same night and spent the night in Miami airport until I could get a connecting flight to Toronto.
Oh my, that's quite the gossip, June.
It was at the time.
All right, what's something, big or small, that you're really bad at?
Mathematics. Ever since I was a child, I seem to have had, and I still do, get brain freeze when it comes to math. I have to have peace and quiet, and in order to figure something out, although I had math drummed into me as a child and had extra coaching, it didn't seem to help. I have brain block.
It happens. All right, thanks for the personal questions. Now let's get into some just for fun questions. If you could only eat one item for every meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I have always said baked beans. Has to be a certain brand of Heinz baked beans based on my British past.
Interesting, baked beans. That's a different one I haven't heard. All right, what book are you reading now?
I'm presently reading a book called Midnight in St. Petersburg. Not St. Petersburg, Florida. It's about the Russian Revolution. It's basically a love story with a lot of drama about the revolution. It's by Venora Bennett.
All right, everybody, go grab a book, and that should be it. All right, 3 more questions for June. What's one totally irrational fear that you have?
I don't know that it's irrational, but it's fireworks. I am desperately scared of fireworks.
So 4th of July is not your holiday.
No, I had to grin and bear it when I had children and with my grandchildren. I would be terrified. I would get angry with all the stupid people around, and I would have nail marks in the palms of my hands.
Oh my. All right, what's the top destination on your must-visit list?
Jerusalem is on the top of my list, with Africa second. Both of which I was in Jerusalem, as some of you know, when I was a baby. And I've always had a fascination with Africa, which also my mother worked in Africa for many years.
All right, last question. Save the best for last, everybody. Here it is. What's the weirdest food you've ever eaten?
Bumblebees out of a can. Is that weird enough?
And you heard it here, folks. Bumblebees from a can. I think she wins for anything I've ever heard. Well, thank you, June, for spending your time with me.
You're welcome, Ashley. It's been a pleasure. And I hope you enjoyed my little life story.
All right, everybody, hang tight to find out who's next.
And stay safe.
Absolutely. And now we have Adrin Puente, our maintenance admin assistant. Welcome, Adrian. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day chatting with me.
You're very welcome.
All right. Are you ready to get down to business?
Yes.
All right. A few business questions. What's your go-to productivity trick?
Believe it or not, I time myself, especially for tasks that I find rather tedious. I give myself a very hard and fast time deadline. I set a timer on, and I tend to be a little bit competitive, and so I'm trying to beat the timer towards my more tedious tasks.
Oh, wow. That's a great time learning, everybody. That's a great productivity trick.
It's mostly for the jobs that I really, really hate, like lots of data entry that just, if I let it take days, it can take days, even though I can be done with it in a few hours. So I'll time myself, and I'll give myself a reasonable amount of time for said task. And my goal is to try to beat that time and see if I get better at it.
And now you all know how she is so productive with her job and gets down to everything quick and snappy. All right, next. Who has influenced you most when it comes to how you approach your work?
Some of my former supervisors and coworkers at some previous jobs. My friend Amanda, who I met at one of my previous jobs, she's kind of a wonderkin when it comes to being an admin. And whenever I have run into challenges like that, she's been really instrumental to help me figure out like the best way to file for a situation, how to organize your databases so that you can search easier, how to troubleshoot. Mostly it's like searching for data that I tend to have the issue with because I don't always remember where I put it. And so standardizing that, and she's been very helpful to make that kind of thing easier. And then I have another friend that helps me with a lot of Excel tricks. So that searching in Excel spreadsheets, which is a big part of my job, are easier for me to do. I've got one spreadsheet that I kind of tricked out with some like highlighted due dates, and they change colors when certain things happen. And
oh, wow. Excel's a tricky one.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, he called himself an Excel wizard, and he really was. He could make it do almost anything.
I need to learn from you. All right, so that's the business part of it. Let's get a little bit more personal with Adrin. All right, what advice would you give your teenage self?
This is temporary.
I love it.
Just that, there's a lot of things that happen when you're a teenager that feel like a never-ending trial. And just to be able to go back to myself and tell myself, this is only for now. this is only for now,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets better, you know, and then you'll have other problems, but then that's only for now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea, when you're 16, 17, 18, the idea that this is just temporary
Mm-hmm.
is not something, I mean, you've only had 16 years of experience of living, and so the idea that the worst thing it's hard to remember that the worst thing that's ever happened to you at 16, with more perspective at 36 or 43, doesn't seem so big anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so this is just temporary.
Absolutely, that's great advice. All right, what's the best advice you were ever given, and who was it from?
Make it till you fake it, or fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
One of my former supervisors, at a couple of my jobs actually, I followed her through a couple different companies.
Mm-hmm.
I idolize her. She's a really smart, savvy lady. And I once asked her, I was like, how do you just know everything? And she goes, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just fake it till I make it. And that's been one of the best pieces of advice, the idea that I don't have to be an expert at everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I can just kind of fake it for a little while until I figure out what I need to know.
Sure. Yeah.
Has been really helpful in all kinds of things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a piece of advice that I give out now. It's like, you only have to look like you know what you're doing, and then eventually you learn enough to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it's been one of the most helpful pieces of advice I've ever had.
That's a great piece of advice. All right, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Almost most consistently an artist. I drew a lot as a child, and then I did a lot of creative arts in school, sculpting, painting. In high school, I discovered sewing, and so I've always been a really, really super creative kid.
Mm-hmm.
I did work in the arts for a great many years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those jobs are temporary,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to a point in life where you want something with more permanence.
Mm-hmm.
I still create in my downtime,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just hard to make a career out of it.
Oh, for sure. And if you guys didn't know, Adrin was the backbone behind our calendar for our Resident Appreciation Show. So you can thank Adrin for that wonderful art piece for our show for you all. All right. What would we most likely find you doing on the weekend?
In better times, I go to museums, and I enjoy. I belong to a dinner club, so a group of friends of mine. Once every other month, we'll go find a fancy restaurant to try something foodie and gourmet and such, and we save up for it. And then there's day trips out to like Fort Myers or Tarpon Springs or Dunedin, and just go and kind of look around. Lately, I've just been doing a lot of crafting at home.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful. All right, some just for fun questions. We have 3 more questions, everybody. All right, here we go. What was the first concert you ever went to?
believe it or not, it was for the rock band Kiss.
Oh my gosh.
It was my 21st birthday, and my older sister is a rabid fan, and she thought it would be the most fun thing in the world for us to get dressed up in our punk rock outfits and go see Kiss. And it was a really great show. It was very, very theatrical. It was a lot of fun.
Have fun. That's a fun concert, I'm sure.
The crazy thing is that this last August, the show we watched was part of their comeback tour. And then this last August, I went back to Texas to go see their end of the road tour.
Oh, wow.
So it was like 20 years later, almost nearly very, very close, like 22 years later, we turned around and saw them. So we saw them go back on the road, and me and her saw them do their final shows on the road. And so that was really exciting.
That's awesome. All right, what fictional place would you like to most visit?
The Wizarding World.
What is that?
Harry Potter.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And I'm a big fan of that book series, and it came in a part of my life. It entered my life at a time when I took a lot of comfort from the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a pretty voracious reader to begin with, but I really enjoyed the world that this woman created,
Mm-hmm.
and the characters. She has put so much mental energy into creating this space. It feels real.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I couldn't do any magic of my own, the idea of just walking in these places is very exciting to me. Just the idea of meeting these characters and seeing these places and knowing that it existed. It's
Oh, wow. Makes me want to pick it up and read.
Have you never read it before?
I've seen the movies.
The movies are very brilliantly
Mm-hmm.
done. Read the books. There's so much more in there.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to be doing during this fun stay-at-home order on the weekend. All right, final question. What's your favorite TV show? The one you're always watching on repeat?
Believe it or not, the Great British Baking Show.
Love that show. Love that show.
Where I think I'm working my way through it for the second or third time. It's one of those things that it's one of the first like competitive pseudo reality shows where everyone's just so supportive of each other. And they just say a lot of nice things, and even the judges, when they're like cutting someone, they do it gently. And it's just it's nice to see a group of people who genuinely enjoy what they're doing and genuinely enjoy other people, to the fact that no one, you know, when sometimes with American shows, it gets very, very cutthroat, you know, they can be very catty, they can be very sharp with each other. And in these British shows, they're all just so lovely. They're just so incredibly lovely people, and they're all so sad when everyone leaves, and everyone's like, you know, there's no like laser eyes in the background or little snippets of like, well, I'm glad she's gone, you know, kind of thing. There's all like, oh, we're so sorry to see her go. You know, someone has to leave, and we hate the fact that we had to pick you, but you just had a crummy weekend. We're sorry. And so there's just something really supportive about that. That especially now, that there's just days when, you know, I watch a lot of sci-fi and fantasy in general, but sometimes that can just be too intense. It's just there's so much to be tense about right now anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just nice to see people be nice to each other.
Oh, 100%.
And supportive and caring. And so I've been turning to that show a lot. That and The Repair Shop. Those are both on Netflix.
All right, yes, Netflix. If you need something to watch, definitely check it out. Adrin loves it. I love it. You will love it. All right, Adrin, thank you so much for spending some time with us chatting along the waterside. All right, guys, we have one more interview. Stay tuned to see who's next. Hi, everyone. Welcome back, and we are here with our fourth and final interview on this beautiful Saturday. Thank you, Eve, for stopping in.
Thank you for having me.
Eve is our HR director. All right, Eve, are you ready for some fun questions?
I am ready.
We're skipping the business and going right to the fun. All right, question 1. What's something you've done but will never do again?
It depends on what direction you'd like me to take with this question. Would you like to hear about the master's degree, or would you like to hear about the Jello wrestling?
I say both.
Okay. So I got my master's. I finished it 2 years ago. Took me 5 years to get it because I took one class at a time. It was all online at Northeastern University. I got my Master's of Science in corporate communication with a focus in human resources, and I made straight A's.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Tough to do.
Yes, it was. The Jello wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was many years ago now, and there was this bar at the end of the street where I worked, and on their marquee they had a sign that said Jello wrestling, and it was spelled apostrophe R-A-S-L-I-N-G. SSLIN. So kind of had to go in there and see what that was about. So once we get in the bar, a friend of mine and I, he did buy me a few beers. I had to get ready, get my courage going, and they gave us some clothes to wear so we wouldn't mess up our own. And we had 3 rounds. The girl was about 3 times my size, and
Oh no.
the first time I actually beat her. I pinned her, and I think it was out of shock. Neither one of us were ready. And then after that, she proceeded to beat the crap out of me. But it was a lot of fun, and I can say I did it.
And we'll never do it again.
No.
All right, next question. What's the best advice you were ever given, and who was it from?
A friend in college, right when I was about to graduate, said, you know what, keep a copy of everything you write and a little piece of every project that you do. And that has helped me so much. And now I have a portfolio that is about this thick of all the various things that I've done, from web design to technical writing to training to HR. And I'm very thankful for that. And it's made me nail every interview I've ever had. That's why I'm here.
Great piece of advice. Wonderful. All right, everyone wants to know, what's your guilty pleasure?
I love the People's Court. I love the People's Court so much. Right now it's hosted by a judge from Miami named Marilyn Millian, and I channel her whenever I'm having a difficult conversation with an employee. And she's respectful, but she's to the point. She doesn't play. She doesn't get emotional. She's not mean. Judge Judy can be a little mean. She's a little tamer. Right now it's not filming, so I'm very sad. I DVR it every day.
That's tough. All right, what's one hobby you'd love to get into?
I would love to learn how to play the guitar. Every time I've tried to learn to play the guitar, I get all into it, start learning my song, and then it gets hard, and I always quit. I need to stop quitting.
That's a tough hobby, though.
It is.
It's a tough hobby.
But Zoe can do it, so I figure anybody can do it.
She's pretty spectacular with it, too.
She is.
All right, final question. Dun, dun, dun. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, The Little Mermaid. I love Poor Unfortunate Soul, sung by Ursula.
That's a classic.
I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch. But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways, repented, seen the light, and made a switch. True, yes. I could go on, but
Wonderful.
thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So that's it with today's Waterside Chats. See you all next Saturday with the 4 new interviews. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Have fun. Stay inside. Love you.